The train wasn't supposed to stop there. It screeched into the small, forgotten station like a mistake, dust rising, metal groaning, passengers confused. Arman looked up from his seat, annoyed. He had a meeting in 2 hours, a life to maintain, a routine he clung to like armor. Delays didn't fit into his world. But then she sat down. Not across from him, no, that would have been ordinary. She slipped into the empty seat beside him, slightly breathless, clutching a worn handbag like it carried her entire life inside. Her dupatta was slightly crooked, her eyes unsure, as if she herself wasn't certain she was supposed to be there. "I'm sorry, is this seat taken?" she asked softly. Arman shook his head without really looking at her. "No." He went back to his phone. Emails. Deadlines. Notifications. Noise. But something about her presence was quiet. Not silent, quiet. Like a pause in a song you didn't realize you needed. The train jerked back to life. For a while, neither of them spoke. Outside, fields blurred into streaks of gold and green. Inside, time seemed to stretch between them, thin and fragile. Then her phone rang. She hesitated before answering, as if even that small act required courage. "Hello?" Her voice was careful. Arman tried not to listen, but her words came through anyway. "Yes. I'm on the train." Pause. "No, I didn't tell them. I couldn't." Another pause, longer this time. I needed to leave." Her voice cracked, and suddenly Arman felt something twist uncomfortably in his chest. He looked at her, properly this time. She wasn't older than 25. But her eyes carried exhaustion that didn't belong to someone her age. The kind that comes from fighting battles no one else sees. She hung up quickly, wiping her eyes before the tears could fully fall. "I'm sorry," she said, noticing his glance. "I didn't mean to disturb you." "You didn't," Arman replied, softer than he expected. Silence returned, but it was different now. Not empty. Shared. After a few minutes, he found himself asking, "Are you okay?" It was a simple question. The kind people ask without really wanting an answer. But she looked at him like no one had asked her that in a long time. "I don't know," she admitted. And just like that, something shifted. Her name was Areeba. She told him in fragments at first, like someone testing whether the ground beneath them was safe. A strict home. Expectations that felt more like chains. A life planned for her without her voice in it. "I was supposed to get engaged next week," she said, staring out the window. "To someone I've met twice." "And you didn't want to," Arman guessed. She let out a small, humorless laugh. "I don't even know what I want. I just know, it wasn't that." "So you ran." "I left," she corrected gently. "There's a difference." Arman nodded. There was. For the first time in years, he found himself listening, not to respond, not to fix, but just to understand. Because his own life, as perfect as it looked from the outside, was hollow in ways he had stopped noticing. A high-paying job. A polished routine. Conversations that never went deeper than necessary. He had everything. Except something real. "Where are you going?" he asked. She hesitated. "I don't know." That answer should have sounded reckless. Instead, it sounded brave. The train sped forward, carrying two strangers who weren't supposed to meet, toward destinations neither of them fully understood. Hours passed like minutes. They talked about everything and nothing, childhood memories, favorite foods, regrets they never voiced out loud. At some point, they laughed. At some point, the heaviness lifted, just a little. And then the train slowed again. "This is my stop," Arman said, standing up. Areeba's smile faltered. Oh. For a brief moment, neither moved. It felt strange, how someone you met by accident could suddenly feel important. "Do you have somewhere safe to go?" he asked. She nodded, but it wasn't convincing. "A friend," she said. "In the city." Arman studied her for a second, then reached into his wallet and pulled out a card. "If anything goes wrong, call me." She looked at the card like it was something fragile. "I won't," she said quietly. He raised an eyebrow. "I mean, I hope I won't have to." He smiled. "Fair enough." He stepped off the train. The doors closed. And just like that, she was gone. Or at least, that's what he thought. 3 days later, Arman couldn't focus. Meetings blurred together. Conversations felt distant. His perfectly structured life suddenly felt meaningless. He kept thinking about her. About the way she said, "I don't know," like it was both terrifying and freeing. About the quiet strength in her leaving. It didn't make sense. Why would a stranger stay on his mind like this? That evening, as he walked to his car, his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost ignored it. Almost. "Hello?" Silence. Then. "Hi, it's Areeba." He froze. "I hope I'm not disturbing you," she said quickly. "You're not," he replied, his voice steady despite the sudden rush in his chest. "Are you okay?" "I think so," she said. "But I need help." And in that moment, Arman realized something he hadn't before. Maybe the train hadn't stopped by mistake. Maybe she hadn't sat beside him by chance. Maybe, just maybe, God had written this meeting long before either of them stepped onto that train. Areeba's friend hadn't been what she expected. Promises fell apart quickly in a city that didn't care about broken plans. She had nowhere to go. No one to trust. Except a man she met for a few hours on a train. It sounded insane. But something in her heart told her she wasn't wrong. Arman found her sitting at a small roadside cafe, looking smaller than he remembered. But not weaker. Never weaker. "You came," she said, relief softening her voice. "Of course I did." He didn't ask questions right away. Didn't make her feel like a burden. Instead, he did something simple. He stayed. He helped her find a safe place to stay. Helped her look for work. Encouraged her when doubt crept in, and it did, often. Days turned into weeks. And somewhere along the way, something deeper began to grow. Not just affection. Not just care. Purpose. Because Areeba reminded Arman of something he had forgotten, that life wasn't about control or perfection. It was about meaning. And sometimes, meaning comes wrapped in unexpected moments, and unexpected people. Months later, they sat on a rooftop under a sky full of quiet stars. "I still can't believe I got on the wrong train," Areeba said, smiling. Arman shook his head. "You didn't." She looked at him, confused. "You were exactly where you were meant to be." There was a pause. Soft. Understanding. "Do you really believe that?" she asked. He nodded. "Yeah. I think, some meetings aren't accidents. They're answers." "To what?" He looked at her, his voice gentle but certain. "To prayers we didn't even know we were making." Areeba's eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but something deeper. Hope. And in that moment, both of them understood something they would carry for the rest of their lives. Sometimes, life doesn't go according to plan. Sometimes, you lose your way. Sometimes, you sit in the wrong place, on the wrong train, at the wrong time. But if you have the courage to trust the journey, you might just find exactly where you're meant to be. And exactly who you were meant to find.